You've probably met at least one person who seems to hold a mysterious kind of gravity around them. They don't request respect, yet people automatically offer it. They don't shout or wave their hands for attention, yet eyes turn toward them the moment they walk into a room. They never feel the need to loudly justify their worth, yet others instinctively believe they're significant. And maybe you've wondered, what exactly do they have that I don't? Here's the surprising truth. It's not wealth. I've seen individuals with empty bank accounts command entire rooms without spending a single coin. It's not physical beauty either. I've watched people who look entirely average leave unforgettable impressions wherever they go. It's not even raw intelligence. Some of the sharpest, most educated minds I've encountered struggle to get a single person to take them seriously. What these extraordinary people possess can't be seen or touched. It's invisible, but its effect is so powerful that it transforms every interaction they experience. Conversations flow differently. Opportunities appear without being chased. People remember them long after they're gone. And here's the kicker. This secret isn't new. It's not some modern psychological trick. In fact, it has been written about for centuries. Over 500 years ago, Niccolò Machiavelli hinted at this force in his writings. He revealed how the world's most impactful leaders and influencers employ it constantly, almost like breathing. And yet, an estimated 99% of people live their entire lives unaware of its existence. It hides in plain sight, cloaked in simplicity, waiting for anyone who dares to see it. Today, what these extraordinary people possess can't be seen or touched. It's invisible, but its effect is so powerful that it transforms every interaction they experience. Conversations flow differently. Opportunities appear without being chased. People remember them long after they're gone. And here's the kicker. This secret isn't new. It's not some modern psychological trick. In fact, it has been written about for centuries. Over 500 years ago, Niccolò Machiavelli hinted at this force in his writings. He revealed how the world's most impactful leaders and influencers employ it constantly, almost like breathing. And yet, an estimated 99% of people live their entire lives unaware of its existence. It hides in plain sight, cloaked in simplicity, waiting for anyone who dares to see it. I'm going to pull back that curtain for you. Not only will I explain what this hidden trait is, but I'll also guide you on how to start cultivating it in your own life right now. But I want to give you a warning before we go any further. Once you understand this, you won't be able to forget it. You'll start recognizing the difference between people who wield genuine influence and those who merely fake it. You'll begin to see why some individuals effortlessly receive opportunities, relationships, and loyalty, while others struggle endlessly to gain even a fraction of that recognition. So before we begin, I want you to pause and make a declaration for yourself. Say it out loud or write it in a comment somewhere. I choose to embody the hidden force that shapes my reality. By affirming this, you're signaling to your mind that you're ready to shift from being an observer to being a participant in the world of invisible power. Now, let's uncover Machiavelli's most dangerous and misunderstood secret. The first revelation, discovering the hidden power. Since childhood, you've been taught an unspoken script about power. Maybe you were told that the loudest person wins, that influence belongs to the aggressive, that the world rewards those who push the hardest. Teachers, movies, and even well-meaning mentors have repeated this narrative over and over. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That's not real power. That's theater. What most people think of as power, yelling, threatening, dominating, is simply desperation wrapped in noise. It's the last resort of those who feel powerless on the inside. They're like actors on a stage trying to convince the audience they're kings and queens when in reality they're just wearing costumes. True power doesn't need costumes. True power doesn't need to raise its voice. It doesn't even need to be seen. Real influence operates silently like gravity. Pulls, it shapes, it moves people without their conscious awareness. It works behind the curtain, in the shadows, in the subtleties of tone, posture, timing, and presence. Think for a moment about the most genuinely powerful person you personally know. Not a celebrity, not a politician, someone you've actually met face to face. Do they brag about their accomplishments at every opportunity? Do they demand constant validation? Do they try to dominate every conversation? Probably not. Instead, you've likely noticed something different about them. They have an aura of calm confidence. They listen more than they speak. They seem grounded, unshaken by chaos, and yet everything around them subtly orbits their influence. People defer to them not because they're forced to, but because it feels natural. This is the essence of what I call invisible dominance. It's not dominance in the sense of crushing others. It's the quiet command that arises when someone's inner state is stronger than the noise of the world. And once you understand how to cultivate it, you gain one of the most unfair advantages any human being can possess. The majority of people are locked in a constant competition for attention. They're chasing validation, approval, recognition. Social media has amplified this desperation. Louder posts, flashier photos, more outrageous opinions, all in a bid to be noticed. But here's the paradox. The more you chase attention, the less people take you seriously. Invisible dominance flips the script. Instead of chasing, you attract. Instead of begging, you command. Instead of proving, you embody. People feel the difference, even if they can't articulate it. They sense that you're not desperate for them, and that magnetizes them even more. This is why someone with no wealth, average looks, and modest intelligence can still walk into a room and captivate everyone present. Their power is internal, not external. It's not about what they own or how they look. It's about who they are at their core. Psychologists have a term for part of this phenomenon: status signals. Humans are hardwired to look for cues of confidence, self-sufficiency, and calm authority. When someone radiates those signals consistently, our subconscious minds tag them as high-value individuals, even if we don't know a single thing about their background. But invisible dominance goes deeper than status signals. It's not a trick. It's not about pretending to be confident. It's about cultivating an inner state so grounded, so certain, that the external world naturally conforms around it. This is why fake confidence always fails. You can't act invisible dominance. People can sense authenticity at a gut level. If your internal state doesn't match your external presentation, they'll feel something's off. That's why trying to copy someone's posture, gestures, or tone without doing the internal work won't give you the same results. Step 1 is to stop doing what the crowd does. Stop chasing. Stop over-explaining. Stop trying to convince. Start observing instead. When you walk into a room, resist the urge to immediately assert yourself. Instead, ground yourself in silence. Breathe deeply. Own the space internally before you try to influence it externally. Step 2 is to cultivate detachment from approval. This doesn't mean being cold or rude. It means genuinely not needing validation to feel valuable. When people sense you don't need their approval, paradoxically, they become more willing to offer it. Step 3 is to master presence. When you're with someone, be fully there. Listen deeply. Make them feel like they're the only person in the world at that moment. This level of presence is rare, and it creates a magnetic pull stronger than any loud performance. Step 4 is to maintain mystery. Don't overshare. Don't reveal every detail of your plans or your emotions. Mystery creates intrigue, and intrigue is a silent form of power. People lean in when they sense there's more beneath the surface. These steps might sound simple, but they require discipline. You're rewiring habits of a lifetime. Most people can't do it because their need for validation is too strong. But if you can, you'll step into a level of influence that feels almost unfair. Once you begin practicing invisible dominance, the world starts to look different. You'll quickly spot the difference between real power and fake power. You'll see the loudest voices as the weakest. You'll notice how often desperation disguises itself as confidence. And you'll find yourself no longer impressed by the noise. You'll also start to notice opportunities coming to you uninvited. People will begin to consult you, respect you, and follow your lead without you having to ask. This isn't magic. It's human nature responding to a rare signal of strength. This is why Machiavelli called it dangerous. Because the moment you understand it, you realize how easily the world can be shaped by those who wield it. It's not manipulation. It's mastery of self, which naturally extends to mastery of circumstances. Now it's your choice. You can continue believing the myths that influence belongs to the loudest, richest, or most attractive, or you can embrace the truth. You can become the quiet force that bends reality without needing applause. Start by repeating the affirmation again. I choose to embody the hidden force that shapes my reality. Then take the first step today. Practice silence. Practice presence. Practice detachment. Over time, you'll find yourself no longer competing for attention but commanding it effortlessly. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about uncovering a part of yourself that has been buried under years of noise and conditioning. Once you let that part emerge, you'll stop chasing power and start living it. Remember, invisible dominance isn't just a tactic. It's a way of being. And once you step into it, your life and the way people respond to you will never be the same again. There's a certain paradox in the world of influence. While most people are shouting, desperate for even a fraction of attention, the truly powerful don't need to raise their voices. Their presence alone captures the room. While others beg to be acknowledged, they are respected instantly, without effort, without struggle. And the most devastating part? No one even realizes they're doing anything. It looks natural, effortless, almost invisible. Think about the average person for a moment. They're like open books left carelessly on a park bench. Every page is exposed. Their emotions leak out on their faces. Their insecurities are posted across social media. Their future plans are told to anyone who asks. They believe that being transparent will make people like them. But in reality, it only makes them vulnerable. They become walking billboards for their own weaknesses, broadcasting every fear, every hope, every fragile thought. The ones who hold real control, however, operate differently. They understand the value of silence, the allure of mystery, and the irresistible pull of what remains unsaid. Instead of handing the world their emotional diary, they reveal just enough to intrigue, but never enough to be fully understood. This is what I call invisible authority. It keeps people guessing. It forces others to pay closer attention. It builds an aura of magnetic tension that makes people want more while ensuring you always remain in control. Niccolò Machiavelli once observed, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you truly are." Those words capture the very essence of invisible authority. It's not about hiding who you are. It's about mastering what people see while safeguarding your deeper power. Average minds assume influence belongs to the loudest, the boldest, the most obvious figure in the room. That's amateur thinking. The real masters know influence works best when it creeps in unnoticed, subtle and quiet, until resistance becomes impossible. And that's the terrifying beauty of it. People won't realize until it's far too late. So before we continue, I want you to pause and declare something to yourself. Mystery is my strength. Silence is my weapon. Write it down, say it aloud, or drop it in the comments if you dare. Because once you embrace this truth, your entire approach to power will shift forever. Let me tear down a belief that's silently destroying your influence right now. You've been told your entire life that openness equals honesty and honesty equals trust. You've been conditioned to think that wearing your heart on your sleeve makes you genuine, and that explaining every detail of your thoughts and feelings makes you authentic. But here's the dark reality. Being an open book doesn't make you trustworthy. It makes you controllable. Think about it. If someone can anticipate your every reaction, you've already given them the blueprint to manipulate you. If they know that criticism makes you defensive, they can keep you on edge simply by questioning you. If they've learned what kind of praise lights up your ego, they can keep you on a leash with nothing more than flattery. If they've identified your triggers, they can push those buttons whenever it benefits them. In other words, the more predictable you are, the easier you are to control. And if everyone around you knows exactly what you're thinking, planning, and feeling at all times, you're not empowered, you're enslaved. That's not authenticity. That's naivety disguised as openness. Now, look at the people who consistently get what they want from life. Do they broadcast every emotion? Do they explain every decision to anyone who questions them? Do they spill every detail of their plans the moment they're asked? Of course not. They reveal selectively. They share strategically. They remain composed when others lose control. That restraint isn't coldness. It's wisdom. Predictability is the death of influence. Once people know how you'll respond, they can use your own habits against you. The strongest individuals are those who keep others guessing. Not because they're playing childish games, but because they understand the value of control. Machiavelli himself pointed to this truth when he said, "The first method for judging the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men around him. But here's the deeper layer. You can also measure someone's true power by what they withhold. Intelligent leaders don't hand out information like free samples. They guard it carefully, releasing it only when it strengthens their position. Weak individuals, on the other hand, give away their thoughts, emotions, and plans freely, then wonder why they're always being manipulated, discarded, or underestimated. Every time you overshare, you hand away leverage. Every time you overreact, you sacrifice respect. Every time you overexplain, you bleed authority. And once those things are gone, they're nearly impossible to reclaim. Here's a truth most people never realize. Information is currency. Just like money, it holds value. The more you give away, the less you have left to spend. The difference is, when you spend money, you know it's gone. When you spill your emotions, your weaknesses, your plans, you often don't even realize the cost until someone uses it against you. Every piece of information you reveal is a potential weapon. Every glimpse into your emotional world is a tool that can be turned against you. People don't need to physically overpower you to control you. They only need to know how you'll respond. This is why the unreadable person is so powerful. When people can't figure you out, they can't trap you. When they can't predict you, they can't manipulate you. When they can't read you, they can't control you. Being unreadable doesn't mean being fake. It doesn't mean building walls or becoming robotic. It means being strategic. It means choosing what to reveal, when to reveal it, and to whom. It means remembering that your emotions, your reactions, your plans, they are not freebies. They are assets. And assets should never be given away recklessly. Many will argue, but isn't being authentic important? Yes, but let me clarify. Authenticity doesn't mean emptying your soul onto the table for anyone to examine. Authenticity means being real without being reckless. It means living in alignment with your principles, not exposing your weaknesses to people who haven't earned that trust. The world confuses transparency with authenticity, but transparency is overrated. People don't need to know everything about you to respect you. In fact, they'll respect you more when they sense depth that isn't immediately accessible. Mystery isn't dishonesty, it's protection. When you learn to hold back, you transform from predictable to compelling. You go from being ordinary to unforgettable. People lean in closer. They want to understand you. They invest energy in trying to figure you out. And in that process, you gain power. Hashtag how to master strategic mystery. 1. Stop announcing everything. Not every thought deserves an audience. Not every plan should be revealed before it's ready. Learn to operate quietly. 2. Control your reactions. If someone insults you, don't give them the gift of seeing you rattled. If someone praises you, don't let them see you addicted to it. Stay grounded in both. 3. Speak less, listen more. The less you reveal, the more others will reveal to you. Silence makes people uncomfortable, and in that discomfort they talk. Let them. 4. Be selective with your circle. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Reserve vulnerability for those who've proven loyalty. 5. Practice delayed revelation. Don't explain your decisions immediately. Let people wonder why. Curiosity is power. These habits may feel unnatural at first because society trains you to overshare. But once you practice restraint, you'll see how quickly the dynamics shift. Suddenly, people are leaning toward you, waiting on your words, respecting your silence, and second-guessing their assumptions. The moment you internalize this truth, you'll see the world differently. Loudness will look like desperation. Oversharing will look like weakness. Predictability will look like slavery. And you'll finally understand why those who speak the least often command the most. Invisible authority isn't about manipulation. It's about mastering yourself so no one else can master you. It's about treating your emotions, your reactions, and your plans as treasures valuable enough to protect. It's about ensuring that when you do speak, people listen. And when you act, people pay attention. This is why Machiavelli's words remain timeless. Because power has never belonged to the loudest. It has always belonged to the least predictable. Now, I want you to make a choice. You can continue being predictable, open to the point of weakness, giving away your influence piece by piece. Or you can decide right now to embrace a higher path. The path of strategic silence, controlled revelation, and magnetic mystery. Declare it once again. Mystery is my strength. Silence is my weapon. Carry that with you. Let it shape the way you interact, the way you respond, the way you reveal. Because the moment you learn to withhold, to restrain, to master your presence, you'll stop fighting for respect and start commanding it. You'll stop struggling for influence and start embodying it. And you'll discover that the most dangerous form of power is the one no one can see until it's too late. I am unreadable, I am unpredictable, and I am unstoppable. That's not just a statement, it's a strategy, a weapon, a way of existing in a world where everyone else reveals too much. And now let me unveil a truth that flips the way you think about communication on its head. In every conversation you've ever had, the person asking the right questions quietly takes control, while the one doing all the answering only believes they're leading. Most people equate words with value. They think the more they talk, the more they matter. They treat silence as a void that must be filled immediately, as if a pause is dangerous, as if quiet exposes weakness. But that nervous rush to speak is their greatest flaw and your ultimate advantage. Because when others are busy trying to dominate with noise, you sit back, steady, gathering gold from every slip of their tongue. While they lay out their plans in detail, you decode their strategies. While they share stories designed to impress, you identify their soft spots, their blind spots, their vulnerabilities. While they perform like actors desperate for applause, you are analyzing, cataloging, absorbing details they don't even realize they've given away. Silent observation turns into your superpower, a lens that allows you to see what escapes ordinary eyes. You notice the twitch in their face when a subject makes them uneasy. You catch the change in tone when a certain name is mentioned. You feel the shift in energy when they're hiding something. You detect the nervous laugh that covers insecurity, the hesitation that conceals dishonesty, the excitement that reveals desire. And all of this information, they hand it to you for free, completely unaware, because their obsession with talking keeps them blind to the value of silence. But here's the brilliance of this art. It's not about isolation. You don't withdraw into cold detachment. You engage, but with precision rather than compulsion. You're not a passive shadow in the room. You are the sharpest blade, striking only when the timing guarantees maximum impact. You ask questions that seem simple on the surface but force others to reveal more than they intended. You listen so closely that people feel as though you understand them better than they understand themselves. When you finally speak, you don't throw words carelessly. You drop insights at the exact moment they create the greatest weight. And while others drain their energy oversharing, you conserve your strength. You don't expose personal details out of nervous habit. You don't rush to fill the pauses with meaningless chatter. You don't scramble to have an opinion on every single subject. Your restraint is not emptiness, it's presence, and it commands respect. Machiavelli once wrote, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose, it is safer to be feared than loved." But what people often miss is the deeper meaning behind this. When no one can fully read you, they can't decide whether to admire you, fear you, or revere you, so they end up doing all three at once. Your unpredictability creates a psychological tension that keeps others off balance. Every conversation becomes a battlefield of strategy, but you're always 3 moves ahead, because you're the only one playing deliberately while everyone else simply reacts. And here's the fascinating result. The same people who once tried to dominate the conversation begin to look to you for guidance. They start seeking your opinions, not because you force them, but because your silence makes every word you do share more valuable. They trust your perspective because you don't rush into conclusions like the rest. They hold on to your statements because you don't scatter them recklessly. You become a rare voice of clarity in a sea of noise, and rarity always commands value. So I want you to carve this into your identity. I speak with intention, I listen with strength, and I observe with superiority. That is your affirmation. Now let's shift to the next hidden weapon, the law of scarcity. If you don't understand this principle, everything else collapses. Human psychology is simple. Whatever is abundant is overlooked. Whatever is scarce is treasured. Yet, the majority of people sabotage themselves every day by making their presence too available. They say yes to every request, thinking it makes them kind or reliable, but it only makes them forgettable. They respond instantly to every message, believing it shows attentiveness, but it only proves their time is cheap. They make themselves constantly accessible, thinking it builds loyalty, but in truth it only teaches the world to treat them as background noise. And once you're seen as background noise, you're invisible in the worst possible way, present but ignored. Scarcity, however, flips the script. When you create distance, when you carefully ration your presence, your value skyrockets. When you become selectively available, people start paying attention. Suddenly, your appearance in a room has weight. Your responses gain significance. Your attention becomes a rare currency that others seek to earn. And no, this isn't about childish games or manipulation. This is about aligning yourself with a fundamental rule of human nature. People do not respect what is too easy to get. Think about the things that hold the highest value in this world: diamonds, gold, rare art, priceless antiques. None of them are abundant. All of them are scarce. The same principle applies to your energy, your time, and your presence. If you hand them out freely, they lose meaning. If you guard them, they gain power. But here's the nuance that separates amateurs from masters. Scarcity must never look forced. You don't announce your value, you embody it. You don't beg people to notice your absence. You make your absence felt without a word. You don't withhold out of insecurity. You withhold with quiet confidence, knowing that every appearance, every word, every decision will have amplified impact precisely because it is not constant. Scarcity creates anticipation. Anticipation creates desire. Desire creates influence. And influence creates power. When you combine silent observation with the law of scarcity, you become nearly untouchable. You know more about others than they know about themselves because you've been listening while they've been spilling. And you are valued more highly than your peers because your presence is never taken for granted. You move like a phantom through social landscapes, rarely speaking, but always remembered. Rarely appearing, but always significant. Others burn themselves out competing for attention, while you command it effortlessly. They shout, you whisper, and your whisper echoes louder than their screams. They show up everywhere until people grow numb to them. You appear rarely, and each time feels like an event. They flood the world with their energy until no one cares. You conserve yours, and when you finally release it, it shakes the ground. So here's your challenge. Step into unreadability, practice strategic silence, and master the art of scarcity. Ask yourself with every action, am I giving away value for free, or am I raising the price of my presence? Am I controlling the flow of the conversation, or am I spilling my power with every unnecessary word? Am I treating my time and attention like treasures, or am I letting the world drain me dry? Those who learn to answer these questions with discipline rise above the crowd. Those who don't remain trapped in mediocrity. The path is yours to choose. Do you want to be predictable, always available, easily read, and effortlessly dismissed? Or do you want to be unreadable, scarce, magnetic, and unforgettable? Decide now, because once you embrace silence as power and scarcity as strategy, you'll stop chasing recognition. Recognition will chase you, and from that moment forward, you'll realize that being unstoppable isn't about moving the loudest. It's about moving the smartest. People often confuse availability with importance, but the truth is the opposite. Anything that can be accessed easily, anytime, by anyone, automatically loses its worth. Think about it. Do you find water in the ocean valuable? No, because it's everywhere. But take a rare mineral hidden deep underground, and suddenly the world fights over it. Gold shines not because it exists in abundance, but because it's scarce. Diamonds command a price not because they're common, but because they're difficult to obtain. A masterpiece painting becomes priceless not because anyone can own it, but because only one exists. Human psychology works in the exact same way. What is rare is valued. What is common is ignored. Your time, your attention, your presence, they are your personal treasures. Yet most people hand them out like free samples at a supermarket. They answer every call the moment it rings, reply to every message instantly, attend every event they're invited to, and make themselves endlessly available. They think this generosity will earn them respect, but in reality, it teaches others to devalue them. If someone can reach you at any time without effort, your presence stops feeling special. It becomes expected, and what is expected is never appreciated. The art of power lies in strategic scarcity. When you deliberately limit access to yourself, people start treating you differently. Suddenly, your presence becomes a reward. Your attention feels like a privilege. Your opinion carries more gravity, because others know you don't just hand it out recklessly. By withholding yourself from the noise, you create silence that makes people lean in closer when you finally speak. It's not about ignoring people or being arrogant. It's about teaching others to respect the value of your energy. Niccolò Machiavelli once wrote, "Men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand. For everyone can see, but few can feel." What he meant is simple. Most people form judgments based on visibility and access. If you make yourself too visible, too accessible, they assume you have little value. If you're everywhere, you're background noise. If you're selective, you become a highlight. Here's how it works in practice. You don't have to answer every phone call the moment it rings. The world will not collapse if you return it later on your own terms. You don't need to respond to every message in seconds. A delayed response signals that your time is occupied with higher priorities. You don't have to accept every invitation. Choosing carefully makes your appearances more memorable. And most importantly, you don't need to drop everything whenever someone demands your attention. Attention is not a right. It is a privilege. Let people earn it. When you set these boundaries, something powerful shifts. People begin adjusting their behavior to fit your standards instead of expecting you to bend to theirs. They start valuing your time, not wasting it. They stop assuming you'll always be available and start appreciating the moments when you are. Every conversation becomes more intentional. Every interaction feels more significant. And every contribution you make is amplified, because it's not diluted by constant overexposure. Scarcity is not weakness. Scarcity is leverage. It's the invisible force that makes people crave your presence, listen to your words, and respect your boundaries. When you walk into a room after being absent, people notice. When you speak after long silence, every ear listens. When you give your energy after withholding it, it carries twice the impact. Your absence sharpens your presence. Now, let's go deeper. Most people think the path to influence is to be everywhere, say something about everything, and show up constantly. They think attention is about volume. But the opposite is true. True influence doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being precise. It's not about being present all the time. It's about being present at the right time, in the right place, with the right energy. This is what I call strategic presence mastery. It's not about scattering your energy across every stage. It's about choosing the exact stage where your presence shifts the entire atmosphere. Think of it this way. A random guest at a party is forgotten by tomorrow. But someone who arrives rarely, yet always at the perfect moment, becomes unforgettable. People talk about their presence long after they've left. Strategic presence requires discipline. It requires the strength to say no, not just to meaningless distractions, but also to good opportunities that don't serve your highest purpose. Because if you try to attend everything, you'll end up remembered for nothing. Influence isn't about quantity of presence. It's about quality of timing. When you walk into the right discussion at the right moment, you shift the direction of that discussion. When you speak not constantly, but at the exact moment your words will land with maximum weight, you reshape the way people think. When you choose not to be everywhere but instead to be where it matters most, you stop being ordinary and start being extraordinary. Machiavelli gave us another timeless lesson. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. Asterisk, what this means is that presence must be both cunning and commanding. Sometimes your power lies in invisibility, in watching silently like the fox, gathering intelligence, and observing without revealing your hand. Other times your strength lies in entering like the lion, bold, dominant, impossible to ignore. The wisdom is knowing when to vanish and when to appear. Strategic presence is a game of contrast. If you are always visible, your presence has no edge. If you are always absent, you fade into irrelevance. But if you master the balance, appearing rarely but powerfully, you create an aura of significance. People start anticipating your arrival. They feel your absence and they feel your return. They talk about you even when you're not there. That is real influence. Understand this. Being everywhere spreads you thin. Being strategic makes you magnetic. Influence is not about doing the most. It's about doing the least with the greatest impact. You don't need to flood the world with your presence. You only need to appear like lightning, sudden, brilliant, unforgettable. So, here's the affirmation I want you to remember and claim as your own. My time is sacred. My attention is rare. My presence is unforgettable. Carry this mindset into every interaction. Stop treating your presence like a commodity anyone can buy. Treat it like a luxury only a few can earn. Because once you do, you'll discover a truth that average people will never understand. Scarcity is not just power. Scarcity is the highest form of influence. When you learn to appear with intention rather than constantly inserting yourself, everything about the dynamic shifts. Step into a room at the right moment, and suddenly the atmosphere changes. People notice you without you needing to demand attention. Speak only when your words are measured, and those words will linger in people's minds long after you've fallen silent. Take action deliberately instead of compulsively, and the results will carry weight that careless movement could never achieve. Contrast this with the person who is everywhere, all the time, doing everything, saying whatever comes to mind. They fade into the background because overexposure dilutes presence. The person who speaks endlessly becomes noise, their words stripped of meaning by their own excess. The one who reacts to everything reveals their lack of control, and others stop respecting them. Real power is not just about entering strategically, it is also about knowing when to leave. A master of presence doesn't linger until they're ignored. They depart while interest is still burning. The strongest impression is created by the person who exits at the right time, leaving others wishing for more, not wondering when the moment will finally end. The truth is, timing your entrance and your exit is what makes presence unforgettable. So let this be your affirmation. I decide my moments. I shape the room by my presence. I control the timing. Now let's go deeper into the battlefield most people lose without realizing it. Emotional discipline. This is where influence is either built or destroyed. The majority of people allow external forces to govern their inner world. Someone praises them, and suddenly they soften, becoming vulnerable. Someone criticizes them, and they flare up defensively, losing composure. Someone pressures them, and they rush into decisions they later regret. Someone flatters them excessively, and they lower their guard, becoming careless. This constant manipulation works only because emotions, when unchecked, are levers others can pull at will. But emotional control mastery flips the game entirely. It doesn't mean turning into a stone without feelings. It doesn't mean you stop caring or suppress every sensation. No, it means you feel fully, but you respond selectively. It means you recognize anger rising within you, but you don't let that anger dictate your words or actions unless it benefits your strategy. It means you can enjoy flattery without becoming dependent on it. It means you acknowledge pressure without letting it accelerate your decision-making. It means emotions become signals, not commands. Average people confuse authenticity with impulsiveness. They think blurting out every thought and reacting to every feeling makes them real. But in truth, it only makes them predictable. Predictability is weakness because once people can forecast your reactions, they can control you like a puppet. Genuine power lies in being unreadable, in feeling everything internally while outwardly revealing only what advances your goals. Machiavelli. A strategist whose lessons survive centuries once wrote, "Whoever desires to predict the future must study the past, for the patterns of human behavior never truly change." His words cut deep. Look at history. Those who were ruled by their tempers, their vanity, their fears, they were controlled and destroyed. Those who mastered restraint, who kept emotions under leash, endured and prevailed. Emotional volatility has always been the downfall of the unwise. Emotional discipline has always been the armor of the powerful. Consider how this plays out in real life. Imagine someone insults you in front of others, trying to spark a reaction. The ordinary person snaps, unleashes their anger, and says something reckless that will later be used against them. The disciplined person, however, feels the sting internally but pauses. They assess the situation, weigh the consequences, and either respond with calculated precision or not at all. The insult loses its power and the attacker fails. Or picture someone manufacturing urgency, pushing you with false deadlines, trying to trap you into making a rushed choice that benefits them, not you. The impulsive individual panics, acts quickly, and later realizes they've been played. The disciplined person slows everything down deliberately. They detach from the artificial timeline and make decisions only when clarity arrives. In doing so, they not only resist manipulation but also frustrate the manipulator. Emotional control is like holding the steering wheel of your own mind. Without it, you're a passenger tossed around by every bump in the road. With it, you direct the course no matter the terrain. Others might attempt to push you, provoke you, or entice you, but you decide how far you let them in. You become a fortress, not impenetrable, but selective about which gates you open and when. And here's a truth most people overlook. Silence itself can be the loudest response. When someone expects you to react with rage, silence unsettles them. When they expect you to melt under flattery, indifference disarms them. When they expect panic, composure terrifies them. People are conditioned to predict reactions, so when you withhold the reaction, you deny them control. That denial makes you powerful. True authenticity is not about exposing every raw nerve. It's about mastering yourself so deeply that what you choose to reveal aligns with your strategy, not your impulse. That's why those with emotional mastery appear mysterious. No one knows whether to love them, fear them, or admire them, so people end up doing all three. They can't be easily categorized, so they become magnetic. Think about the most respected leaders, thinkers, or strategists. Were they the ones who exploded at every insult? No. Were they the ones who craved endless praise? No. They were the ones who remained centered even when storms surrounded them. Their calm unsettled enemies and inspired allies. Their restraint made their occasional bursts of emotion all the more impactful. Controlled fire is far more powerful than a wildfire. You need to remember, emotions are tools, not masters. Anger can be fuel when channeled, but poison when uncontrolled. Praise can be encouraging when balanced, but dangerous when addictive. Pressure can sharpen focus when used wisely, but destructive when blindly obeyed. The difference lies not in the feeling, but in your mastery over the response. So the next time someone pushes your buttons, step back and ask yourself, does responding serve me or serve them? If it serves them, silence is your weapon. If it serves you, respond, but respond with clarity, not compulsion. This single shift will transform the way people see you. They'll recognize that they cannot sway you with cheap tactics. They'll sense that your emotions belong to you, not to them. This is why emotional control is not just a personal strength, it's a public statement. It communicates silently that you are unshakable, untouchable, and beyond manipulation. It elevates you above the ordinary, because while others are slaves to provocation, you remain the master of yourself. Let this be your affirmation. I feel deeply, but I respond deliberately. My emotions inform me, but they never enslave me. My composure is my power. When someone attempts to control your choices through guilt, fear, or emotional pressure, most people collapse under the weight of that manipulation. But the person who sees clearly doesn't bend to it. They recognize the tactic, step back, and consider their true options. They make choices that serve their vision, not someone else's agenda. That doesn't make them cold-hearted. It makes them powerful. Power doesn't come from reacting impulsively, it comes from deliberate control. When everything around you is falling apart, the one who remains calm instantly becomes the anchor others rely on. When crowds are panicking, the person who stays rational becomes the natural leader. When everyone else is drowning in emotions, the individual who stands steady becomes the solution people look to. This is why control is everything. Now let's talk about a weapon most people ignore because they're afraid of it: strategic silence. Silence is far more powerful than most words ever spoken. But the average person runs from it as though quiet moments will expose them. They fear silence because they think it means they're not adding value. They feel compelled to fill every gap in conversation, assuming noise equals contribution. They couldn't be more wrong. Well-timed silence is not weakness, it's dominance. True silence makes others reveal themselves. It forces them to fill the void, to talk more than they intended, to expose thoughts and vulnerabilities they would have otherwise concealed. Silence builds tension, making your words heavier when you finally choose to speak. It communicates confidence more effectively than any speech. But there is a difference between awkward quiet and purposeful silence. Awkward quiet is random, born of discomfort, and it weakens you. Strategic silence, however, is calculated. It's silence used as a weapon. Silence that unsettles others while strengthening you. The right time to deploy it? After making a point. Don't rush to explain. Let the silence reinforce it. When asked a loaded question designed to trap you, pause, let them sweat, then answer on your terms. When conflict erupts and people talk over one another, silence makes you the most noticeable person in the room. When someone demands an instant decision, silence buys you time and often reveals their true motives. Machiavelli once said, "Nothing great was ever achieved without danger." And silence, though uncomfortable, is dangerous in the best way. It hands you invisible advantages others can't fight. Most people fear silence so much that they expose their own weaknesses just to break it. They spill secrets, reveal strategies, and even bargain against themselves, all to escape the discomfort. Meanwhile, you're watching, listening, calculating, and gaining leverage. The brilliance of silence is that it forces people to value your words. When you don't react to everything, people choose their words more carefully with you. They recognize your attention is rare, so they place higher value on it. When you finally speak, it feels like an event. People lean closer, tune in fully, and remember what you said long after others' chatter has been forgotten. Silence transforms your presence from background noise into a commanding force. Your affirmation here is, "My silence communicates strength. My words are rare and powerful. My presence cannot be ignored." But silence alone is not enough. The next principle is about restraint. Never reveal everything you are capable of. This is the mistake that destroys more potential than any other. Average people showcase all their abilities immediately, believing that if they put everything on the table, they will gain credibility, trust, and admiration. But exposing all your cards up front only weakens you. It eliminates curiosity, kills intrigue, and hands others the information they need to counter you. Once people fully know your range, you are no longer mysterious. And when you are no longer mysterious, you are controllable. The wise move differently. They reveal capabilities like chapters in a book, piece by piece, always leaving something undisclosed. They maintain mystery, ensuring others never feel like they've fully grasped their depth. This applies to skills, connections, resources, even knowledge. Don't display your entire arsenal unless the moment demands it. Don't overshare knowledge just to impress. Give just enough to spark interest, never enough for people to fully map you out. Machiavelli reminded us that those who act only on what should be, instead of working with what truly is, pave their path to ruin. Transparency, though often praised, can be a trap. Selective revelation, on the other hand, protects you. Why is this so important? Because secrecy serves multiple purposes. It allows you to surprise people who underestimated you, keeps you flexible, adapting based on the moment. It prevents others from building strategies to defeat your strengths. It creates endless curiosity, keeping people engaged and invested in who you are. and it protects you from being exploited by people who would weaponize the knowledge you gave them. Hidden strengths are like weapons stored in the shadows, unseen but deadly. Concealed resources are like backup plans no one can interfere with. Unrevealed knowledge is like a secret shield. This isn't deception, it's intelligence. You're not lying. You're choosing when and how to reveal. The world respects what it sees, but it is fascinated by what it cannot see. And fascination always generates power. Closely connected to this is the principle of uncertainty. Uncertainty, when applied strategically, is one of the most effective psychological weapons. When people cannot predict your next move, they lose their balance. They second-guess their strategies. They question themselves. They start working harder to earn your approval or secure your response. Certainty in others breeds laziness. Uncertainty keeps them sharp. Think about it, when someone is completely predictable, you stop putting in effort. You know exactly what they'll say, how they'll react, and how they'll decide. There is no challenge, no intrigue. But when someone mixes their timing, shifts their responses, and varies their availability, they stay alive in your mind. They force you to remain engaged. This doesn't mean being random. Randomness is chaotic and self-destructive. Strategic unpredictability means sometimes responding quickly, sometimes waiting, sometimes being warm, other times reserved, sometimes available, sometimes occupied. The goal isn't to stress people, but to make them value every interaction with you. Machiavelli famously claimed it is safer to be feared than loved if both aren't possible. But here lies a deeper truth. To be unpredictable is often better than either feared or loved, because unpredictability demands respect. It makes people cautious with you, keeps you from being underestimated. Your affirmation: I remain steady in my values, but unpredictable in my methods. My uncertainty is my weapon. Now comes the transformation itself, becoming the hidden force. This isn't about changing your personality into something unnatural. It's about elevating your strategy so you become the most effective version of yourself. Invisible dominance isn't about shouting for respect or demanding attention. It's about commanding both without asking. To do this, you must eliminate destructive habits. Stop craving constant validation. The need for approval makes you weak and transparent. Stop over-explaining your choices. Decisions and boundaries don't require endless justifications. Stop reacting emotionally to every provocation. Emotions are meant to be processed privately, not broadcast publicly. As Machiavelli said, the best fortress is the affection of the people. But even stronger than that is your own self-mastery. People cannot control what they cannot predict. In place of those weaknesses, build habits of strength. Pause before responding. That pause gives you time to evaluate and makes your words heavier when you finally speak. Ask questions more than you give statements, because questions gather information while statements only reveal. Be selectively available. Your time and attention must be earned, not given away freely. Speak with purpose. Cut away filler. Avoid desperate words, and let everything you say have impact. When you live this way, you become the person whose presence alters energy in a room, whose silence commands more respect than others shouting, whose opinion carries weight without ever having to argue for it. This is invisible power in motion, the art of maximum influence with minimum exposure. The world is full of noisy pretenders fighting for attention. Let them scream. Real strength works in shadows. Fake power needs the spotlight. True power thrives in silence. While others beg to be heard, you'll learn to influence without announcing yourself. While others demand respect, you'll receive it effortlessly. While others fight for control with force, you'll control the entire game by being unreadable. The most dangerous figure in any situation is not the loudest. It's the one who cannot be read, who cannot be predicted, who cannot be controlled. That is the person others underestimate, and that is the person who wins. From this moment forward, stop trying to be noticed. Start practicing the art of being powerful without noise. Every conversation is an opportunity to listen more and reveal less. Every decision is a chance to act strategically rather than emotionally. Every silence is an opening to strengthen your presence. You are no longer one of the many fighting for scraps of attention. You are the hidden force shaping reality. Your final affirmation: I am the unseen hand guiding the game. My silence commands, my strategy shapes, and my presence transforms. I am unstoppable.